Annie, would you tell us about how you educate children here?
Sure. There's a program I've been running for 5 years now. It's called Growing Chefs. And the idea was to connect people to food from start to finish, from field to fork. So for as long as we've been running the programming, every class or workshop we run has a gardening component and a cooking component. And when I first started it, it was because I was working for the New York Botanical Gardens, and it's an amazing institution, but they don't do a lot of culinary stuff, and I was really interested in food, because as I explained, I was just sort of like learning what food there was in the world, and it was really exciting. So I partnered up with a nature center in Connecticut, and as we were rebuilding their garden with the children, we taught a cooking program alongside. So everything we planted that week, we would complement by using like a local foods recipe. We'd go through the farmers market together. A really awesome example of this is, so let's say come March, you go to the farmers market and you buy potatoes. You can show the kids how to make mashed potatoes, or you could do, we used to do this recipe that was so beautiful, we would take opal basil and green basil that we had grown indoors during the winter time. We would make 2 pestos, and then we would take like a cheesecake tin and put a layer of mashed potatoes, a layer of green pesto, and a layer of purple pesto, and then they would crack open the cheesecake tin and they'd have these beautiful little pesto patties. Pesto is great for children because they don't use knives, they just throw it in a blender, so they feel like they're doing something really awesome, but it's not super unsafe. And then the mashed potatoes, of course, kids get to mash. That was one of my favorite starter recipes for March. Then you would cut the eyes of the potatoes and you would set them out to dry so they would sprout, so that come May, you could go out and plant it in your garden that you would be working on with the kids. Okay, so it was just really, that sort of workshop would be the model for what we do with everything. And what we've been doing here on the farm is taking this wonderful landscape opportunity. This morning we did a workshop where we talked the kids through composting and worm composting. Then we brought them up to the farm, we had them plant radish seeds. And then we did what we're doing now, we had them harvest spinach, and we actually harvested it as a whole plant, so you can talk to the kids about, you know, we just talked about composting, how do we use the compost? So the compost feeds the roots of the plant. What is it doing now? It's growing a seed. What we do today, we planted seeds. If you want to plant spinach seeds, it's the same size as a radish seed, so the kids know how to plant spinach. And then of course we ate some, and I love giving kids this spinach because they think it's delicious, and how often do you get to do that with kids? So, yeah, so the program is now about 5 years old, and it's been really fun. One of the reasons that I work for the Botanical Gardens still is that it's a 3 seasons of the year job, and in the winter I have 4 months where our programming is closed and I can travel. And I usually go to the southern hemisphere and I catch up on all of the farming experiences that I haven't gotten to do because I've been working in New York. And so in the past 5 years I've gone to about 9 different countries to pick specific crops and learn the way that you become a master composter. Like I become like a corn master, or like a coca master, or I did my undergraduate degree in chocolate agriculture. And then have since learned to do a bunch of different foods because it's just fascinating. Like almost anything you want to know about potatoes. So I went to Peru and did like a month's worth of growing with these potato growers who were growing like things you'd never seen before. And then take that and translate it back to our food system here. And I think with kids it's really interesting because you know, I think a lot of times with food education we come at it from a nutrition angle, and nutrition is something that is so fascinating to me. I know a lot less about it, and you guys could probably tell a lot more than what I currently know. But I do know that if you want healthy food, you need good soil, and you need good growing practices. And so I feel like with starting kids outdoors, it's a space that they already love to be in. You give them something to do with their hands, which is something that's really exciting for them. And then to let them curate their own recipes through harvest, it's really simple. Like the food here tastes good, so you don't need to get all crazy with the recipes. They just try 3 or 4 simple things, make a simple dressing, and it's usually fairly delicious.